Let's look at one-hand arm locks with the Hanbo.
This is the Kitsune clan, a group of sword enthusiasts who like cosplay, reenactment, and historical martial arts. If you have similar interests, feel welcomed.
We've derived now quite a set of techniques from the Hanbo and we can still continue. I want to talk here about a special set of arm locks that I really find important, and I call it the one-hand arm locks. This is not the perfect description for them, I think, because I usually use the second hand for a function, but I want to make the distinction that I don't have the Hanbo in half sword in these cases. And by this we in fact increase the number quite drastically because we see a symmetry break happening here. Yeah, let's get slowly into it. First disclaimer, we are now deriving these techniques from already known arm locks. We could have also derived them from a set of disarms, and we will also later on look at these disarms and make this connection again. This is the thing with mind maps. We will have to make many of these cross connections over time. Just stay there. So let's assume we get attacked angle 1 and we either already make a one-handed block, video on that is in the playlist, linked in the description box, or we let go with the left hand after we have blocked with two hands. And I still want to make my normal motion for the arm lock. For angle 1, this stays very similar. I still do a one circle, but I have now a long end of the stick that can tangle around the arm. And I have now, in fact, a lot of different possibilities. I have indicated that in some videos already. There are usually 4 different versions. I make a very simple one here of this arm lock. I simply step in with my body and I can basically do anything. I can use my left hand to press against the Hanbo. I can punch the opponent. I can grab whatever. I can simply lean against the stick. There are so many possibilities. The important part is that my stick is wrapped around the arm of the opponent, forcing the arm into a chicken wing position. If you check some of our disarm videos, you will immediately see that this is a very common disarm, for example, with a knife or with a eskrima type stick or whatever. So this should be well known, and this is also not surprising. This is very similar to the motion that we also do in half sword. The thing, the big break, the big change, the big expansion of our knowledge happens when we come to angle 2. Because if we follow the force, either from half sword, letting go then with the left hand, or one-handed block, anyway, we would usually in half sword use the right side of the stick to continue. This would be the butt now in this situation, right? The part of the stick that comes out of our right fist on the pinky side, on the downside. And here now we want to use the long side of the stick to make our arm lock. Why? Because we want to stay in the same type of principle. And that's what we see now. What happens? We have now 2 possibilities. With the half sword, we were using the one and the other side of the stick very naturally. And here we have this, what I called symmetry break. We have now the long side, where we would usually use the butt side. Which also means there will be another video on arm locks where we use specifically the butt side. Be prepared for that. Okay, we want to use the long side. It is below the arm to make now a arm lock. We move it simply up, and in this case I simply grasp the free end of the Hanbo, and we see a nice figure 4 type of arm lock. Very effective here. Not surprising, people from the Bujinkan will immediately scream, oh, Onikodaki. That is very classical technique from Bujinkan. Onikodaki. Related to that, if we continue from angle 3, there comes the attack in angle 3 and we are redirecting the force upward. Left hand is already gone, or let's go in this case. Then we have the long part of the stick into the elbow of the opponent, and we get a technique that in Bujinkan is called Ura Onikodaki. Challenge here, there's this long part of the stick and it somehow wobbles around. It's not fixed. And what I usually do is I put it under my left arm. That gives an additional fixing point, and that's important because my stick is what I'm twinkling the arm of the opponent around. If that is not properly fixed, I cannot inflict pain. I cannot really make a mechanically strong arm lock. There are also people that do it differently. They will place the stick on their forearm and grasp the wrist of the opponent with their left hand. That also works well. That's a locked version. I sometimes do that one. I prefer the other one because it's faster. But as I said already, there are these different flavors and variations of all of these arm locks, and I'm trying to point the base principle out here, but there are many flowerings, as it's called in some Eskrima styles, possible to make the techniques look different. Anyway, this is again very similar to the motion in half sword because we're just following the force. You can already expect, as we had some trouble, or no, challenge, let's say it like that, with angle 2, we will also see angle 4 being a bit different. And here we get again the nature that these are cross movements. That's what we called them in some of the other videos. Angle 4, redirecting the force. Usually we would love to take the butt side of the stick. We'll do so in the next video. Now we want to have the long part of the stick move, so we have to go in one direction and in the other direction, similar to what we saw in angle 2. Again, I can either fold the stick under my left arm, or I can lock the stick up on my forearm and lock the arm of the opponent. Both working very well. In this case, we have a nice little chicken wing type of arm lock that is very powerful, in fact. With this set of 4 one-handed techniques, you already see they're not really one-handed, but they're not in half sword. We have now quite a different repertoire, and you can already feel there's a lot of variations possible in these. There's a lot of follow-up techniques like throwing techniques and stuff like that possible from these positions, and they look so extremely similar to what we have seen with the sword, with the messer, so with a big knife. They look so similar to things we have seen with Eskrima sticks already, to what we have seen with short weapons like the Bacham Dao or with the Zai or whatever. You can see it's always the same type of principles, it's always the same mechanics, and just exploring what's happening when force is acting on a certain weapon will lead us to these techniques. And then we can, of course, explore the different little thingies that we can still do, and also look for personal preferences. I know a lot of people, for example, when they defend against angle 2 and angle 4, prefer to use the butt region, and with the Hanbo this is also always a very nice option to do so. What I like in these 2 long-sided versions that we have used here against angle 2 and angle 4 is the extreme lever. With the butt you often don't have the same type of lever. There are ways of cheating around that and also creating lever, but with the versions here, especially the Onikodaki against angle 2, is absolutely a arm crushing type of arm lock. That's why it's named like that, Onikodaki, so destroying the demon or crushing the demon or something like that. You could translate that. And it's in fact very common. You often see that not only in Bujinkan, but there it got a proper name that I can address. And in many styles, this is a common type of arm lock. And therefore, I would say it's a good idea to also train these, although if you might prefer the butt version because it's more easily coming from the motion, and with the cross type of motion that we use here, we have to go back and forth to finally enter the state where we have full control of the arm. But if you get used to that, it's a very versatile and powerful type of arm lock that has also a lot of options of continuing. The problem with the one-handed types of arm locks that we have here, we have to move the Hanbo with one hand, and depending how heavy your Hanbo is, always think of a broken spear or stuff like that. Historically, that might have been challenging, and that's also one of the plus sides. If you train this type of movements with the Hanbo, this is a good training for your forearm musculature. If you have to work on a computer all workday, and that's the case for me as well, it's good to have something to strengthen your forearm, and these exercises with the Hanbo could definitely help you. You already know the next video will be, or one of the next videos will be, about arm locks with the butt side of the Hanbo. Hope we could inspire you, and hope to see you around next time.